Hello and welcome all. In one of our previous videos, we talked about the different course options that New Zealand have and the different educational institutions that students could choose to study in New Zealand. Now we move on to the next aspect, which is the fund requirements. The fund requirement is important because it also impacts the decision about the course study and the educational institute that the student would be studying. So we have received a lot of queries regarding this, and so to help the students with budgeting for their studies, we have here with us Ms. Parvinder Kaur, who is a licensed immigration advisor and a New Zealand study expert, and she would be perhaps helping the students in how to plan their funds for their study in New Zealand. Okay, so ma'am, the first question is, why is the fund requirement for study in New Zealand so important? Why is it important to budget, say?
Well, budgeting for your study in New Zealand is very important. First and foremost, with regards to your family savings. Now you're planning to spend a huge amount of your family savings for your study in New Zealand. So it becomes very important that you budget your studies, because studying in New Zealand would include many costs like your tuition fee. The tuition fee, which would depend on the college or university you study, it would depend on the type of course you're planning to study. The second is about the cost of living. So once you're in New Zealand, you must also have sufficient funds to support yourself, like your accommodation and any other cost which would incur while you live there. So students need to plan accordingly for their studies. Secondly, from the visa point of view, when you apply for your study in New Zealand, there are certain requirements set up by Immigration New Zealand which the students must fulfill if they would like to apply for their New Zealand study visa and have the successful outcome of their application. So budgeting is very important.
So ma'am, among the many queries, we had a student who wants to do his Masters of Management in New Zealand. So he wants to know how should he go about with the funds that he would need for this program.
So here I am considering that the student might be interested to know about the amount of funds that would be required to study Masters of Management program. So in terms of the tuition fee as well as the cost of living which would be required. Now this would depend on the first factor is the duration of the course. So let's say that this particular applicant would like to study a one-year program of Masters of Management in New Zealand. So the first factor is that the duration is of 1 year, and the second factor is whether the student chooses to study in a university or a TPUKinga New Zealand Institute of Skills and Technology or a private training establishment, as we discussed in our last video. So the fee for these three different education providers would be different. So let's assume that the student is studying 1 year of Masters of Management course, and the tuition fee for 1 year of Masters of Management is New Zealand dollars 35,000. So as per the requirement of Immigration New Zealand, the student needs to have access to first year of tuition fee, first year of cost of living, as well as travel expense, which is New Zealand dollars 2,000. Now taking this example, as the tuition fee is 35,000 New Zealand dollars, so the student would need $35,000 plus 20,000 cost of living, which comes out to be 55,000, and then we add 2,000 of travel expense, it comes out to be 57,000 New Zealand dollars, which must be readily available when you apply for your visa and readily available to pay your tuition fee as well as to support your cost of living.
Ma'am, I think there are some programs, some master's programs in New Zealand, which is also for 18 months.
Mm-hmm.
That is approximately 1.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
So will the fund requirement remain the same?
No, the funds requirement would vary depending on the duration of the course. Now in New Zealand, the students may find a master's program from the duration which could be from 1 year to 2 years. So this was an example we gave of a 1 year master's program. Let's suppose that the program is of 18 months. So for 1 year you must have funds readily available, and for the next 6 months you must also have the funds. Now these funds could be in the form of liquid, like it may be in your bank accounts or in your savings account, Or if you do not have that amount available in your bank, you may also show a payment plan for next 6 months. like the payment plan, how would you be paying for your tuition fee for the next 6 months, as well as the cost of living for 6 months. The cost of living, if it's for 1 year, it's 20,000. For 6 months, it's going to be 10,000. So the students may show a payment plan for this case.
Ma'am, so if you could just explain the payment plan for the students, let's say the one who wants to do a Masters of Management. So what would his payment plan look like?
Payment plan, as the name suggests, is the plan how would you be paying for your studies. Now, payment plan includes your family income sources. Now, depending on what kind of income your family has, from where your family is getting income, you need to attach the documentation. And the income should also match the amount which would be required. So let's say that you are applying for study in New Zealand and both of your parents are in government job. So you have funds readily available for the first year, but for the next 6 months you do not have funds. But then you may attach the income proofs of your parents with the sufficient amount of income, which would imply that you would be paying for your expenses for the next 6 months from your family income sources. But the students must take care that the income amount must be that. Like, it's not that the amount required for 6 months is, let's say that you require 15 to 16 lakh and your family income documents just show that you have 4 to 5 lakh of income. So there would be mismatch. So a solid payment plan which would convince the case officer that you are in a position to pay for your expenses would work.
So, ma'am, there would be students who would want to do their bachelor's in New Zealand, which is usually for like 3 to 4 years. So, does this payment plan work for them as well?
Yes, of course. Payment plan is for all the applicants whose course duration is for more than 1 year. So as you said that the bachelor's program is of minimum 3 years, it could also be of 4 years if the students choose to do a bachelor's honors degree. So the students may also go for a payment plan. Like for first year, they need to show that they have funds readily available, and for the subsequent years of study, they could attach a payment plan. But then again, the students must take care that the documents should show that your family has got that amount of income which they can easily support your tuition fee as well as cost of living for any subsequent year of study.
So, ma'am, as you just explained that they have to attach documents and everything. So, what are the acceptable sources of, say, funds that the immigration requires?
Immigration New Zealand has got very specific requirements for the kind of funds they would accept for student visa applications. Here I am particularly talking about the applicants who are from India. So if you have got savings in your bank account, those are acceptable. Any forms of FDRs, fixed deposits your family may have, those are acceptable. And your education loan. So education loan which has been sanctioned against a security in the name of acceptable sponsors. Again, the applicants must take care that these funds must be held in the name of acceptable sponsors. If these funds are not in the name of a person who can sponsor you as per Immigration New Zealand, then again these won't be acceptable. And for clarity, the acceptable sponsors for your study in New Zealand for Indian applicants are your parents, your real brother and sister, your grandparents, both set of grandparents like your paternal grandparents and your maternal grandparents. If you are a married applicant, then your spouse can sponsor you as well as your parents-in-law can sponsor you. So this is a list of sponsors as per Immigration New Zealand for Indian applicants.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering these queries, and we hope that this would help the students who are struggling with budgeting for their study in New Zealand. For any other further clarifications in terms of fund requirements and more, you can contact West Highlander Immigration. Thank you.
Thank you.